Hi, I'm Mary Marola, founder of Function Junction, and welcome to my kitchen. I'm going to talk with you about big bird basics. Not the yellow kind that you see on TV, but you guessed it, the turkey. Now, turkey is not just for the holidays. In fact, it is a great bird to make any time of year. The first thing we're going to do is start with the brine. Now, I have boiled about 2.5 quarts of water. And to that, I'm going to add 1 cup of kosher salt and 3/4 cup of sugar. By using the hot water, I can easily dissolve the salt and the sugar. While that's dissolving, I'm going to pull together my herbs. I'm a big fan of the flat parsley because it has much more taste than curly parsley, which is only ornamental. We have fresh thyme, rosemary, and sage. And as you see, I have done a coarse chop on this. The next step is to use a mortar and pestle. I have whole allspice and about 1.5 teaspoons of black peppercorn. And I'm going to put that in my mortar and pestle and just crush them a bit. Now, by crushing the whole spices, we're releasing the flavors. This takes a little upper body strength, but it's well worth the energy. Now I have the crushed black peppercorns and allspice berries along with my herbs, and I'll be adding that to the water. So since this is hot, it's important to cool this brine water because it needs to be cool before we submerge the big bird in our brine. So our brine is cooling. This usually takes an hour to an hour and a half. The other option is you can put this pan in an ice bath. And sometimes I go to my sink, fill it with ice, and just submerge my stock pot in the ice, and that will quicken the process. So we have a fairly small turkey. This is a hen. Hens are usually under 14 pounds, and toms are the big guys. They're up to about 25 pounds. So today we're going to deconstruct our turkey. And what that really means is we're going to take the turkey apart. So I'm going to start with my chef knife. And the first thing I'm going to do is separate right here the leg and thigh part. I'm going to do that on each side. Then I'm going to move into the breast. By the way, this is the gizzard and the heart. I'm going to set those aside. We'll talk about those a little bit later. And this, of course, is the back. Take my boning knife. I kind of interchange a little bit between the chef knife and the boning knife. And it's not a race, so take your time doing this. I'm cutting through the cartilage and I'm cutting through the joint here, trying to preserve the skin. And here we have the breast with the wings. And I'm going to remove the wing tips. The wing tips are great for stock. Right through the joint. Now move back to separating leg and thigh from the back. It's easier once you remove the back from the breast. Look for that nice clean slice. go. So now I have the back, the neck, and this little part, which we call in our house what goes over the fence last. My brother Guy and I always had a battle over this little piece, so we normally cut it in half. These pieces, back, neck, wingtips, gizzard, and heart, will be roasted at about 300 degrees. They will not be brined. Reason for that is we'll be using the roasted pieces to make our turkey stock, which will then be used for our turkey gravy. The heart and the gizzard will be chopped finely and put into our dressing. You'll never really notice it, but it will taste fabulous. So now we have our deconstructed bird, and our next step is to weigh the bird. That is an important consideration because it has a bearing on our brine time. Start with the breast. This weighs 3 pounds. The legs are 1.5 pounds a piece. So, the maximum amount of time to brine the breast is 3 hours and 1.5 hours for the legs. That's important because we don't want to over brine the turkey and make it too salty. This is our brining bag. A brining bag is different than any other bag because it is a heavyweight plastic bag with a very secure zipper. So we're going to place the breast and the legs in the brining bag. So our next step is to take all of this and put it directly into a roasting pan, and I do that for stability. So here's our brine. As you remember, it needed to cool for about 1.5 hours, and it's got this nice dark color, and that's a result of our peppercorns and the allspice. So pouring the brine over the turkey. Let me bring this up a little bit. We want the brine to cover all of the turkey. I have a little bit more water. Okay, so it's nicely covered. And then we're going to squeeze the air out of the bag. Starting at the end, press, make a nice tight seal. And this extra heavy brining bag, along with the stability of the roasting pan, is going to go directly into the refrigerator. Now, because the legs and thighs are about 1.5 pounds, I'm going to set my timer for 1.5 hours. I'll remove the leg and thighs at 1.5 hours, and then the breast will brine for another 1.5 hours. I'll see you in about 3 hours. We're back, and the turkey has been brining. So let's take a minute and get it out of the brining bag. And we don't need this anymore. We'll be disposing of the brine. So while the turkey is draining for a moment, we're going to go back to our dressing. Now, we made the dressing a couple of days ago. I've added to it a little bit of neck meat and a little bit of the heart and gizzard that I finely chopped. As you remember, we roasted the back and the neck, the heart and the gizzard, and made our turkey broth with that, which I have strained. So here is a cheesecloth bag, which is sealed on the bottom. What I'm going to do is take our dressing and I'm going to fill this bag. Now that the bag is filled with our dressing, I'm going to knot it, place it in the center. With some paper towels, I'm going to gently blot the turkey, just removing a little bit of that brine. I'm going to place the legs off to the side. I'm going to do a little bit of extra work though on the breast. So take a look at the breast. Using your finger and the back of a spoon, gently separate the skin without tearing it from the breast meat. Do it on one side and then move over, do it on the other side. This is tricky because we don't want to tear the skin. Go. And the back of the spoon will get in there without tearing the skin. And if you do this over a period of time, you'll start to get a feel for it. Move back a little bit. See how that works? Now I'm going to go back to this side, back in here a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to take my butter and put it back in there, push it back in. I usually use about 4 tablespoons of butter. Just push it back in. There we go. Stretch the skin back over. So we have a stainless steel roasting pan, and I have these fabulous silicone roasting racks that are on the bottom. And they're going to raise my turkey and my dressing above the bottom of the rack. Here we have the strained and defatted turkey broth, which I am able to put now by releasing it from the bottom of the strainer into the bottom of the roasting rack. And that's going to allow the drippings to go into the roasting rack, but they're not going to burn on the bottom because we're putting about 2 cups of our stock in the bottom. Now we're going to take the breast, and we're going to lay it on top of the dressing. Now remember, the dressing is primarily cooked. So what we're accomplishing here is to get all the flavor of our turkey on top of our dressing, but we're not stuffing it, we're cooking it under the breast. Let's put this in the oven. We're going to cook it about 15 minutes per pound at 350 degrees. The legs are going to cook a little bit quicker, so I'm going to check my temperature and I'll be back to you in about 1 hour and 15 minutes when we're going to check the temperature of the legs. See you soon. Our turkey has been in for about 1 hour cooking. I've taken it out so we can check temperature. As expected, the legs are cooking a little bit quicker. So I'm going to remove them for a minute. I'm also going to take the breast off. One of the great features of a deconstructed bird is that it's much easier to handle. Now I'm going to take the juice and pour it into my gravy strainer. This is where a large strainer comes in really handy. Putting my racks back. Here's the dressing. Flipping it over. I'm turning the turkey the opposite direction. This way, when I put it back in the oven, I'm reversing the direction because not all ovens cook evenly. And by pouring the juice, in effect basting, I'm going to moisten the turkey. The last step before I put the turkey back into the oven is to take some melted butter and finish off the basting process. This will give it a nice finish. Time to go back to the oven and remove the turkey. We're right about 180 on the thigh, and those are coming out. And we're not quite ready on the breast, but I'm going to remove that for a moment. Take away our stuffing. We're going to put the breast back in for just a little bit. All right, while our turkey is finishing, we're going to take the stuffing. I'm going to open up our bag, pick it up, and I hope it cooperates. There we go. Now look at this beautiful, moist dressing. Let's put some butter on top. Now I'm going to put this under the broiler just enough to crisp up the top while our turkey is finishing in the oven. Time to take the breast out of the oven. Now when you're using a thermometer to check the internal temperature, always be sure to check the meat not close to the bone. And remember that the meat will continue to cook after it's out of the oven. Very important to let the meat rest for 15 to 20 minutes. And we're expecting that it's going to raise about 5 to 10 degrees. So we're at a perfect temperature now. We want the turkey to be about 165. So we're going to let it rest for about 15 to 20 minutes, and I'll be back with you. So here we are. The big bird is complete. And now it's time to slice it up and prepare our feast. Look at that breast. And this is our dressing. And Rebecca made the gravy. How does that look for a turkey feast? I'm Mary Marola. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen today. Come visit us at Function Junction or at functionjunction.com. We sell cooking tools to give you kitchen confidence.